You see him there, hanging from chains of his own making. A giant, his flesh a canvas of raw muscle and burning rage, his face a grotesque mask, with horns torn from his own helmet. This is Hades, Lord of the Dead, as imagined by the chronicle god of war. And you watch as Kratos, a man who has become a force of nature, rips the very soul from the god's body. A victory, a tyrant slain. But what if I told you the monster was Kratos, and the god he just murdered was the one thing holding the cosmic order together? What if the true story of Hades is not about a demon on a throne of bone, but about a lonely king performing the most necessary, thankless job in the cosmos? Let us solve this divine riddle. Let us descend not into the fiery hell of the video game, but into the silent grey lands of the myth. To understand how a stern king became a demon, you must first meet the god who was neither. The monster on the throne. The Hades you meet in the game is a creature forged from pure spite. His realm is a cacophony of screams and punishment, a twisted landscape of fire and agony. He is a jailer, a torturer, and his motives are painfully, personally human. He holds a grudge. Kratos killed his wife Persephone and his niece Athena, and so he seeks simple, brutal revenge. You see it in his eyes, a burning hatred. You hear it in his voice, a rasping promise of eternal suffering. His form itself is a perversion, a colossal, brutish titan who uses the souls of the damned as a weapon. He is everything we fear about death, that it is not a quiet end, but a violent, malicious, and personal judgment. He is a villain you are meant to despise, an obstacle you are meant to overcome. This Hades is a magnificent monster, but he is a lie. The unseen king. Now, I want you to forget the fire, forget the horns and the rage. I want you to stand at the edge of a river shrouded in mist. The water does not rush, it flows with a deep and mournful silence. This is the Styx. This is the true entrance to the Underworld. The god who rules here is not waiting for you with a roar. In fact, he is almost never seen at all. His very name, Hades, means the unseen one. He was so feared, so respected, that mortals would not even speak his name aloud, calling him instead by other titles. Plauton, the rich one. Clymenus, the renowned. Why? Were they afraid of a monster? No, you do not fear the tax collector because he is a demon. You fear him because his ledger is perfect and his authority is absolute. The mythological Hades was not the god of evil. That is a Christian concept, a foreign ghost haunting a Greek machine. He was the god of the dead. He was an administrator, a king whose only job was to preside over the final, unchangeable destination of every mortal soul. His realm wasn't a singular pit of fire. It was a vast kingdom with distinct territories. The fields of Asphodel, a grey, neutral land for the vast majority of ordinary souls. The Elysian Fields, a paradise for the heroic and the virtuous, and Tartarus, a deep, inescapable pit reserved not for common sinners, but for the greatest enemies of the gods, the Titans, and mortals whose hubris was so great it threatened the cosmic order. He did not judge them. The three judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Iacchus, did that. Hades simply ruled. He was grim, yes, unyielding, certainly, but he was not cruel. He was just. He was the embodiment of a terrifying but necessary cosmic law. Everyone dies, and everyone receives their due. There were no exceptions. The pact was sealed, and with it, the universe was brought into balance. Zeus took the bright, chaotic sky, Poseidon took the churning, unpredictable sea, and Hades, he took the dark, silent, and eternal earth below. He did not fight for it. He did not complain. He accepted his lot, descended into his kingdom, and upheld its laws with an iron will for all of eternity. He was the great balancer, the one who ensured that the scales of life and death remained level. The broken contract. But what of Persephone? The game tells you Kratos killed her, enraging her loving husband. The poets tell you Hades stole her from a field of flowers, a brutal act of abduction, and this story, more than any other, has been used to paint him as a villain. But was it a simple crime of passion? Or was it a cosmic contract, a promise made between gods? Let us look closer. The myths tell us Zeus, the king of the gods and Persephone's own father, sanctioned the marriage. He promised his daughter to his brother in secret. The abduction was not an act of chaos. It was the brutal, divine fulfillment of a pact, a business transaction between the two most powerful kings. Hades, the keeper of final things, was simply claiming what was promised to him by law. The story is a tragedy about a mother's grief, yes, but it is also a testament to Hades's character. Once he had Persephone in his kingdom, he was bound by its rules. When he tricked her into eating the pomegranate seeds, binding her to the underworld for part of the year, he was not being needlessly cruel. He was using the ancient laws of his own domain to secure his queen. He operated within the rules, always. Contrast this with the Hades of the game, a being of pure emotion driven by a simple lust for revenge. A god who would shatter any law, unleash any horror to settle a personal score. The game needed a villain who was emotional, relatable in his hatred. The myth gives us something far more unsettling. A god who has no emotion, only duty. A cosmic bureaucrat whose ink is the river Styx and whose ledgers are the fates of all men. Which one do you think is truly more terrifying? The raging monster you can fight, or the silent accountant whose math always adds up? The Lord of Riches. There is one more piece of this puzzle, one more name for the unseen king that reveals the depth of what was lost in his transformation. The Greeks also called him Pluton. From this name we get words like plutocracy, the rule of the wealthy. Pluton means the giver of wealth. Why? Because all the precious metals, all the gems, all the rich soil from which crops grew came from his domain deep within the earth. He was not just the god of death. He was the god of the hidden wealth of the world. He represented the full cycle. Death was not just an end, but the soil from which new life and new wealth could spring. He was the guardian of everything that lay beneath the surface. Lost souls, yes, but also forgotten treasures, sleeping seeds, the very potential of the earth. God of War erased this completely. It stripped him of his creative, life-giving aspect and left only the destroyer. It turned a god of cycles into a god of endings. A complex, dual-natured deity became a one-dimensional demon. And now we must ask the final question, the one that uncovers the heart of this mystery. Why? Why perform such a character assassination? The revelation, killing a concept. The developers of God of War were not ignorant of mythology. They are masters of it. They did not make a mistake. They made a choice. They understood something fundamental about their own story. Kratos is not a man. He is a force. He is a rebellion against systems. He is the embodiment of chaos raging against the prison of order. His entire journey is a war, not just against gods, but against the very idea of fate, prophecy, and destiny. He is a mortal who refuses to accept that some things are written, that some doors are closed forever. So, who must his ultimate enemy be? Not Ares, the chaotic god of war. He is too much like Kratos, not Zeus, the flawed king of the gods. He is merely a tyrant to be replaced. No, for a character whose entire existence is a rebellion against immutable laws, the greatest enemy must be the god of the most immutable law of all. The one law no hero, no king, no god could ever break. The law of death. To make this conflict work, Hades could not be a grim but fair administrator. You cannot have a glorious boss battle against a bureaucrat. He had to be transformed. He had to become the very thing Kratos was fighting against, a tyrant who uses the law as a weapon of personal cruelty. The game inverted his character. It took the cosmos's most lawful god and turned him into a lawless monster. When Kratos rips the soul from Hades, he isn't just killing a god. He is killing a concept. He is screaming into the void that even the finality of death is just another cage to be broken. He is destroying the very idea of cosmic order. By killing the unseen king, Kratos unleashes the souls of the dead back into the world of the living, a plague of chaos that proves the point. The world needs its stern warden. It needs its thankless king. The echo in eternity. We are fascinated by this story today for a reason. We, like Kratos, live in an age that loves to tear down old structures, to question ancient laws. We champion the individual who rages against the system. The transformation of Hades from a stern king into a demon reflects our own modern myth. The fantasy that every rule is an oppression, every authority is a tyrant, and every ending is negotiable. God of War gives us the catharsis of seeing the ultimate law broken, the final warden slain. But the old myth, the quiet one, leaves us with an echo of a colder, harder truth. That some systems, however grim, exist for a reason. That some walls are there to protect us. And that some kings are not hated because they are evil, but because their law is absolute, and their duty is to a truth we would rather not face. The game shows you a demon being slain. The law shows you a pillar of the universe being shattered, and it asks you to listen to the silence that follows and wonder what happens to a world when there is no one left to guard the dead.